Hello, I'm Chander Dal, CEO of Kasten. This week, Kasten's team of software architects, data engineers, and data scientists collaborated to compare the AI capabilities of the top three cloud providers: AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. In this video, we will compare the handwriting recognition APIs. So let's get started. Images tell us a lot more than words, but can they tell words? Yes, with artificial intelligence, that's possible. In this particular case, we will be using computer vision models that help in image recognition, OCR, or optical character recognition, as well as handwriting recognition. So the obvious question is, which cloud does it better? Let's start with architecture. Step 1, user uploads an image that has a handwritten letter. Step 2, the load balancer redirects the results to the appropriate server. And then one of our horizontally scalable APIs running on the servers makes a call to a microservice that's running in a container in one of the clouds that invokes their AI model. And finally, the result is passed back from that channel all the way to the UI. I want to make sure it's clear that these are artificial intelligence models, that's AI models, running in the cloud. Kasten team has made similar models that can run on-premise, and the architecture we used here is a multi-cloud architecture. That means it can work on-premise in a hybrid scenario, on-premise as well as cloud, or it can work in a multi-cloud scenario. However, the point to note is that we can run this pretty much anywhere without making any changes to the code or the deployment model. Sample images. We chose 3 sample images, and we obtained those from Google Images. The first 2 pictures are in English, with the latter one being cursive, and the first one is not very legible even for a human because there's a lot going on there, as you can see. And this last one is in French. You may have noticed by now that the third picture has 2 sheets. So are you ready to compare the results? Let's do it. As you can see, Microsoft's done a pretty good job, especially with the first paragraph. You can see Microsoft just got 1 mistake here. And if you check out Google, it's not as bad. As you can see, the word is drowned, and they thought it was crowned, and then vomit was misspelled, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty decent. And there's a lot of red in AWS. As you can see, 7 isn't really a 7. A human could possibly tell it's 7, but it's completely misspelled. It's SE7EN. Yeah, that's a numeric 7. That's not right. It should have been V. And follow is a pretty close flow. As you can see, some humans might even read it flow. So it's not as bad, but we still penalize Microsoft for that. On the left-hand side, we have numbers 1 through 7. And if an AI model is not specifically trained on those kind of numbers, it's going to be hard for the model to even tell what that is. In real life, a lot of people, especially in case of handwritten letters, can use a circle around a number to highlight that number. However, in digitized text, that's usually not the case. So you can see that Microsoft, as well as Google, end up not recognizing those numbers, and in Google's case, it completely ignores them, and in Microsoft's case, it tries to work with them. But either way, we decided not to penalize the model just because of those numbers. But overall, Microsoft's the winner here. AWS had a lot more mistakes, so we're not getting into that much detail. Now look at this. Wow. Microsoft only has 2 mistakes when it comes to the cursive handwriting. That's very impressive. If we were to do a comparison side by side, I can see lit and bit are pretty close. If you don't know the context of the sentence, you may think it's lit and of. Well, that is definitely a mistake, but that's just 2 mistakes. Even a human could make that mistake first time you're reading that letter. And for Google, there's quite a bit of mistakes here. A couple of things I'd like to talk about. For example, instead of nearest, which is not even a word, and felicitations, the closest word to felicitations is felicitations. So here's how I would have programmed it. Now, even though I get the entire word, I would think as my AI engine goes, well, J is probably, there's a probability of 0.9 out of 1 on a J, and maybe a 0.8 out of 1 on F. But then I could use natural language processing, and I could look for a word that is close to what I'm trying to get to. And if I don't find a word, felicitations, well, at that point of time, I should give F higher priority just because there is a word with felicitations in my dictionary. So I understand that this is a mistake that AI could make, but I also understand there's a pretty easy fix here. There are different ways to solve this problem. Sometimes you could simply use a model that does spell check and have it run after you've run the primary model to make sure you get the best solution. Similar things could be done with sincerest, but it's not that easy because that word is pretty far. You know, it's not even close to the amount of alphabet sincerest uses. It's just 6 characters here versus sincerest, which is 9 characters. So that's pretty off. And then you can see there's a lot more red here. You know, instead of stunning, it says p-tunning, which does not make sense. That's not even a word. So there's a lot going on here. Microsoft's a clear winner. However, when you look at French, one thing to note is that Google actually is the only one here that understands that these are 2 different pages. And Microsoft, as well as AWS, go all the way from left to right as if it is 1 page. Now, is it a big problem? The answer is no, because when you are going to send data to the API, it's going to be a PDF, and most of the times you're going to be smart about what you're sending to the API, and you'll send 1 page at a time. And I think that's the assumption with the API here. So I'm not going to penalize Microsoft or AWS for that, but kudos to Google because they're already thinking of a very good scenario here, and they've done a good job handling that scenario. And let's look at French. Google's done phenomenal here with just 2 mistakes on image number 1, and Microsoft's got, I believe, 6 or 7. Page number 1. AWS has got quite a bit of mistakes over there. Let's go to image 2. Wow, Google's only got just 1 mistake over there. Microsoft's got another 6 and 7, pretty close. And then AWS has a lot going on there. So let's look at the final results. So Microsoft's a clear winner when it comes to English. The first letter, which was not very legible, Microsoft has 12 incorrect, which is very good given the fact that there were some mistakes in the letter, as well as the fact that it's not legible enough. And then Google's pretty close, it's 20, and AWS is almost 7 times more mistakes than Google. That's a lot. And given the fact there's probably about less than 200 words there, that's a lot of mistakes. Then number 2, cursive handwriting. Microsoft's the best it gets. It's got just 2 mistakes. Google's about 15, 16 times more. And then AWS is even 3 times more mistakes than Google. And when it comes to French, Google is unbeatable. Just 4 mistakes. Microsoft's about 5 times more mistakes. And then AWS is 10 times more mistakes than Microsoft. If your company is building applications using big data and artificial intelligence, or creating web or mobile applications on cloud, microservices, or on-premise, please visit Kasten.com and see why Fortune 500 companies use Kasten for successful multi-billion-dollar revenue-generating applications. Thank you for your time.